Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to Business Innovators Radio. My name is Tim Dimmick and your host for today as we continue with our series of Real Estate Trendsetters. For those listening for the first time, this is a series where we are speaking with top producing real estate agents about 10 different segments of the real estate transaction, some from the buyer's perspective and some from the seller's perspective. These are all designed to help you better understand the process and prepare you for your next real estate purchase or sale. Today, we're going to cover the topic of making a strong offer. And to help our listeners better understand what that means and why it's so important, we have with us Lisa Povlow from Weichert Realtors in Doylestown. Lisa has been a licensed realtor since 1997, is a recognized leader in sales listings as well as dollar volume through Weichert, and is a member of the Weichert Presidents, Ambassadors, and Executives Club. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
Well, we're certainly excited to have you with us here today on Business Innovators Radio. Before we get into your subject of making a strong offer, I would love for you to share with our listeners what it is that drew you into the real estate business.
So I was a single mom, and my father was a real estate broker and an investor. And I actually had a fruit fondue business. I'm more of an entrepreneur type. And it really went sour. And my father said to me, "Lisa, why don't you go into real estate?" And I said, "Dad, that sounds so boring, really." But actually, it has been amazing. It's been 19 years now. And the best thing I've ever done, and I love it. I really love it. I love meeting new people. I love the psychology of it and the challenges. And, just taking care. I'm a nurturer. I love taking care of people. So it's really wonderful.
What a great story, Lisa. I appreciate you sharing that with us. It's funny how people get into the industries they get into and how things turn out, but I love to hear the stories. So for today's topic, making a strong offer, we're going to assume that, I'm a buyer. You're starting to show me houses. Maybe even before we get to that point, what are the things that you look for and what are the things that I need to have in place before I even go shopping for a house, let alone make an offer?
So you should definitely have a pre-approval or have already actually applied for your mortgage. If you're a cash buyer, have proof of funds, maybe a bank letter. It's always good, I say, to have some kind of letter of introduction, from yourself, connecting with the seller, letting them know who you are, or from your agent, possibly an agreement of sale on your current home if you need a settlement contingency. Something called the BFI, we say, or Buyer Financial Information Sheet, where you're disclosing, that you could possibly even go beyond the minimum qualifications to the seller. A gift letter from a family member if you need a gift. A good real estate lawyer ready and available to review if necessary. A power of attorney. If you're doing a 1031 exchange, clearly outline the intermediary and timeline. And I would just say just have all your paperwork available and ready.
Wow, that was a lot of great information, Lisa. For our first-time home buyers that are listening today, I just want to go back and hit on the importance of that pre-approval, because they're entering the market for the first time, never purchasing a home before. That pre-approval is very important from the standpoint of you understanding what you qualify for when it comes to a housing payment. So obviously, Lisa, you're showing them houses that are in the right price range that they're going to be able to afford. There's nothing worse than going out house shopping, getting excited about a house, and then finding out you can't qualify. So for the first-time listeners, that pre-approval is very important. So assuming I have my pre-approval, Lisa, and I come to you, we search some houses out, we go out and look at them, I walk in the front door and I say, "Lisa, this is the house I've been looking for. What are the things that you're going to point me to that I need to pay attention to when it comes to the condition of the house?"
Right. So you definitely want to make sure that the buyer really looks at the home, look at the layout, look at the location, look at the house inside and out. Just notice everything that you can about the home, and always request the seller's property disclosure and review it carefully so that you know what the seller may have repaired, any problems that the seller may have had, something that you might have to look out for, in the future, or save some money for to repair yourself.
Lisa, are these property disclosures a requirement in this state?
The seller must disclose. That is absolutely the law and a requirement. The seller must disclose everything that they know about the property, and they should definitely want to do that. It protects all parties.
Yeah, Lisa, I totally agree, as this seller's disclosure is going to give you a snapshot of the property and everything that the current owner knows about the property that you may not ever find out any other way. These are things that you may even be overlooked by a home inspector, or the home inspector may not be able to detect, so forth and so on, but certainly will factor into your offer and how you want to structure that offer.
Right. And, I just recently put in an offer, and the buyer knows that actually it has knob and tube, and how is that going to affect their insurance, and how is that, is the seller prepared to repair it, or is the buyer prepared to, take care of this? And is the lender okay with knowing this information?
Lisa, that's a great example, and two great points that you just made there. So you've got a house, got knob and tube wiring. It's going to be costly to replace it. You can get an estimate on how much it's going to cost to replace it, but you certainly have to factor that in to your offer as to who's going to pay for that, and what kind of an effect is that going to have on the price, or, and what you offer. So again, without that disclosure, you may or may not know that. The second point is the lender going to be okay with that? So, that's another decision that needs to be understood, so that you're not going to run into problems, prior to settlement. Does it have to be done prior to settlement, or doesn't it? All kinds of things and all kinds of information that, again, you're only going to obtain from the seller's disclosure. So some great points. I appreciate you sharing that information. As we move on, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that buyers have when it comes to making an offer?
Buyers a lot of times think that they're in control of the marketplace, and that may or may not be true at the time. And it's really the price point, the current condition, the location, the supply and demand. And a lot of times buyers feel that they know that, let's say, because they saw asbestos in the basement or something, that another buyer, certainly, this actually happened, wouldn't buy this property, for more money than they were offering, and certainly, wouldn't make a stronger offer. And that is very untrue. It can be, another buyer might see the bigger picture. I always say that one man's issue is, another's opportunity. And
I like that.
Get real costs, and don't assume anything, and look at the bigger picture, and, ask yourself, is this a property that when repaired and updated, will gain equity over time? Is this a property that's going to be your home for years? Or is this an investment property? And how would you feel if you lose the home? I ask my buyers, how would you feel? Because I need to act and react to that.
Lisa, that's a great question and a great point to make. When you have a situation where, there is a condition on the property that needs to be fixed, I'm sure you witness too often where people walk away from a deal really without getting a price quote on having that condition repaired. And let's face it, the seller certainly has to deal with it sooner or later. So again, get all the facts and then structure your deal and structure your offer accordingly.
Communicate with the buyer, communicate with the listing agent, communicate with the seller, and try to make it work.
Right. Again, communication is the key to any negotiation, but certainly when there's an issue on a property, if it's really the property that you're looking to buy, like you said, it's, you're going to raise your family there, those kind of things. Don't let something small that can be fixed get in the way of having that become your home. And too often, I'm sure you see people walk away and then later on they're kicking themselves because that is truly the house that they did want.
It's amazing, Tim. This happened where a buyer walked away. I actually had the listing, and a buyer walked away after doing, I'd say, $5,000 worth of inspections. And I couldn't believe that they just walked away. They did not ask for any repairs. And I talked to my sellers. They were so disappointed. And we were actually going to get another offer. I was told another offer was coming in. And I just thought, my goodness, these buyers just spent, $5,000. My sellers asked me to, go back to the first buyer after discussing, all that they had put into this. I just asked them if they wanted to sit down and talk to us about it. Well, we not only talked about it, the buyer came up $5,000 more than the initial sale price because they actually didn't find another home that they loved better in those 2 weeks.
So, Lisa, that's a perfect example of, almost losing a house over a lack of communication. The house that these people really wanted. And I always say, in the grand scheme of things, $1,000 or $2,000 when you're paying a couple $100,000 for a property, if it's the house that you really want, in most cases, negotiation, communication will lead to a positive end result. So moving forward, Lisa, what are the common mistakes that you see buyers make when they're preparing their offer?
The biggest mistakes are a lot of times they're relying on their past experience, which doesn't always translate to today in today's market conditions. Don't go into low. Don't make your offer too low on a property because a seller could find that insulting and it might not accomplish your goal. In fact, it really sets a poor tone. And a seller usually does not want to counter themselves or bid against themselves. They're mostly unwilling to do that. And the buyer might not get a second chance. And don't assume and don't wait too long to make an offer. Seize the moment. You definitely don't want to open up time for other competing offers to present themselves because then you lose negotiation, the strength of your negotiation. So, it puts the buyer at risk of having to pay more than they initially would have had to pay if they just made a better offer to begin with.
Again, that's a great point, Lisa. And again, I come back to the question of, what if I lose this property over $1,000 or $2,000? Am I comfortable with that? And if so, then that's fine. You live with that choice. But many times when you do find the right property, that $1,000 or $2,000 really isn't going to mean anything in the overall picture.
If they connect to the location, they connect to the home, and they feel that it's their home, what really is it worth? Are you going to be here for 10 years or 20 years or 5 years? What does this mean to you? And let's put a strategy together to get you what you want and what's reasonable for you.
Lisa, that's great advice. I certainly appreciate you taking the time today to share with our listeners some of these great points about making a strong offer when they're considering buying their next home. But before we go, if you could, please share with our listeners your contact information in case someone has further questions in reference to this subject and would like to touch base with you.
Sure, Tim. My office is Weichert Realtor, Doylestown, and the main number there is 215-345-7171, and my cell number, which I'm always carrying, is 215-370-0525.
Fantastic. That about wraps it up for today. But for our listeners that are in the market to buy or sell a home in the near term, keep posted to Business Innovators Radio as we continue with our Real Estate Trendsetter series and learn how you can buy or sell your next home with confidence. Fantastic. Well, that about wraps it up for today. Thank you to all of our listeners and certainly our guest, Lisa Povlow from Weichert Realtors of Doylestown, PA, for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. For our listeners that are in the market to buy or sell a home in the near term, keep posted to Business Innovators Radio as we continue with our Real Estate Trendsetter series and learn how you can buy or sell your next home with confidence.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.